Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's 3:34. It's Thursday. It's March 25th. It is NBA trade deadline day, one of the best days of the year, for me at least, and I hope that is the case for many of you. Zach Weiss, happy to be with you. We'll be joined shortly by Erik Neff and Samir Kumar. And if your name is Gary, I suggest not watching, or you too might be traded. Gary Clark, Gary Trent Jr., and Gary Harris, all three of the active NBA Garys, were traded. Good thing Gary Payton II is currently in the G League, or he might have been the next Gary victim to be dealt. But we're going to run through the smaller trades, then bring on the fellas to run through some of the bigger ones. First trade, it happened 2 days ago. Mfiondu Kabengele going from the Kings to the Clippers, courtesy of a traded player exception that was about to expire. Not a ton there, but good for Kabengele to get new scenery and maybe some minutes along the way. Warriors sending Marquise Chris to the Spurs for Katie Lalonde. Who is Katie Lalonde? We're going to do a research paper on Katie Lalonde later, as at this point he is just one of many names switching teams, perhaps an international prospect. I don't have the lowdown on him. Marquise Chris will be back next season, and I don't believe he is under contract for next year, so he'll have to sign with the Spurs. Good for the Spurs, though, an athletic young big, and maybe he'll hype up the bench. Celtics send Daniel Theis to Chicago for Mo Wagner, who was sent from the Wizards to the Bulls earlier today. Jeff Teague and Javonte Green expected to be in this deal as well. Whether or not they are doesn't matter. What does matter is that the Bulls get a quality big behind Vucevic. Daniel Theis is a winner. He makes winning plays. It stinks that the missed three last night, or 2 nights ago, will be his last memory as a Celtic, but he had some good memories there. This is great for Chicago to get a big man in the middle. Wizards and Bulls made a deal. This involves Mo Wagner, who's not going to be in Chicago. He went with Troy Brown there for Chandler Hutchison and Daniel Gafford. Gafford's another big body for DC. They've been kind of small with Robin Lopez and Alex Len. I like Gafford going there. Hutchison, we'll see. He's been away from the Bulls for personal reasons for about a month. He's overcome a few injuries, but kid can shoot the ball. So perhaps DC has a new floor spacer. Troy Brown's a promising young forward that can play defense at a high level, so he might be able to bring some good things to his new home in Chicago. There's no word yet on what is coming back to New Orleans, but Nicolo Melli and J.J. Redick are off from New Orleans to Dallas. Dallas gets their sharpshooter to come off the bench. Nice compliment for Tim Hardaway. Nicolo Melli, another stretch big. And if you're European, you're probably going to end up with the Mavericks. I mean, they got Luka and Kristaps. They got so many other guys. Dirk, obviously, over the years. J.J. Barea was there for a long time, and now they're bringing in Nicolo Melli. Again, if you're European, you'll end up in the Mavericks regime. It's just how it is. Some cap space was cleared up from Golden State's end, perhaps to get in on the buyout market. Yeah, Victor, the Celtics are not done. No, they are not. Plenty more to happen. Looking forward to seeing exactly what that is. Brad Wanamaker's off to Charlotte. Basically just some cap space in there, but Wanamaker was good for the Warriors every time I watched the game. Curry plays the first 12 minutes. Wanamaker plays 5. Then Curry plays 12, and then Wanamaker plays 5, and Curry finishes the quarter. But, good for Brad. He'll get a little more playing time in Charlotte and be a good mentor for Rozier and Graham, and perhaps some injury insurance for LaMelo. Kings and Pistons swapping point guards while our heads hit the pillows last night. Corey Joseph for DeLon Wright. I like this for the Kings because DeLon Wright is an upgrade over Corey Joseph in all facets of basketball, really. And Corey Joseph now becomes a good veteran mentor for the young guards in Detroit. Saban Lee, Dennis Smith Jr., and, of course, first-round pick Killian Hayes. A couple more to get to, and then we are going to bring on Erik and Samir. Cavs and Nuggets swap backup centers. JaVale McGee, a one-time Denver Nugget, is headed back there. Isaiah Hartenstein, 23 years of age. Nice young man to fit the Cavs rebuild. He's 23, and he's actually now the oldest center on the Cavs. Do you believe that? That's crazy. Jared Allen's only 22 right now. They're going to be a good 1-2 punch, and those second-round picks we'll see what ends up happening, what they convey to. It's all about protection, what's protected in these picks and what they get to keep versus might have to trade back. But I like McGee for Denver. Best backup center they've had in a long time for Jokic. Kings and Heat make a move. Nemanja Bjelica going to Miami for Chris Silva and Mo Harkless. Mo Harkless signed with the Heat to hope to try and get to the NBA Finals after spending the second half of last year with the Knicks. Now he's on the Kings. So prayers up, Mo Harkless. Hope you have fun in Sacramento. Chris Silva, we'll see what ends up happening there, what he does, but he's as a talented player that deserves the opportunity. And Bielitsa is another stretch big for the Heat. So we got 2 more trades involving the Raptors, and then we are bringing in our guests and really getting into the nitty-gritty. Matt Thomas to Utah for a future second-round pick. Jazz are already the best three-point shooting team in the NBA, so why not add Matt Thomas to that mix? We know he can get hot, and future picks are always nice. And lastly, Terrence Davis going from the Raptors over to Sacramento, who added quite a few players between Kabengele, Harkless, Silva, DeLon Wright, and now Terrence Davis. So they're going to have a bench finally. No more playing Buddy and Barnes for 40 minutes a night. Future pick involved here as well. But, that is essentially what we have seen so far. No new tweets from Woj or Shams, so that is what we have for the moment. Again, there'll be a buyout market. We'll be there for Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, and some other guys. We'll get to that. But as we continue on, Erik and Samir joining me now. There are a lot of trades to talk about. Are your phones driving you crazy today with all these notifications, guys?
In a good way, though. It's driving me crazy in a good way. I love all the vibrations. As you said earlier, this is one of the best days of the year for me. I love the end of NBA free agency. I also love the NFL free agency. The free agency trade deadlines, they're the most exciting time in any sport when you're not watching an actual game. So I've loved all the vibrations from Woj and from Shams today. It's been great. My Bulls picked up a few guys. I'm pretty pumped about that. Vooch. It's an exciting day. So I'm pretty excited about all the vibrations.
How about you, Samir?
Must say it's been a crazy day. This has been the best trade deadline in the last few years. This for the longest time, I can't remember a trade deadline with so much activity as this one. We have big names, Aaron Gordon on the move. We have, guys like Evan Fournier on the move, in a lesser deal. But, the list goes on. And then there are rumors about Kyle Lowry potentially on the move for, the last few hours. Obviously, nothing came to fruition. Kyle Lowry expects to stay in Toronto, but just the buzz around Kyle Lowry potentially being on the move had people fully invested in the trade deadline. And obviously Nikola Vucevic, that was the biggest move at this trade deadline. That kind of got things started when Woj tweeted out that Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Amino are heading to the Chicago Bulls. I was like, there wasn't even a single rumor about Vucevic heading off to the Chicago Bulls. That didn't happen whatsoever. It kind of came out of the blue. So we had things like this just kind of come to fruition. That's what's made this trade deadline exciting, the most exciting in the last few years.
Yeah, I remember I was waiting for Sesame Chicken in line as a senior in college, waiting for the Cavs to make a move. They brought in Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson that day. If I had my plate in my hand, it probably would have fallen out and cracked, and I would have felt terrible about it because that's how excited I was when the trade broke. But that was 3 years ago. That was the last time I remember excitement about it. Jalen LeCue has been waived by the Pacers. Not a league-changing move, but an athletic young player that has a year and a half of experience in the NBA. We'll see where he catches on. But, guys, the first trade we're going to talk about is this one. Lou Williams going back to the Hawks and Rajon Rondo and 2 second-round picks to the Clippers. I love this. The Clippers get a tremendous facilitator with a lot of experience. And in Lou Williams, the Hawks now have a bench punch of Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Lou Will, which just has – if I was a fan of a team playing the Hawks, it would give me the Quakes.
Absolutely. And with the Hawks, this is one of those trades that no one has really won the trade. It's just a good trade for both teams here. I think they both get something they need. The Hawks are so strong off the bench right now. Jeez, picking up a scorer like Lou Will, that's huge. I've always been a huge Rondo fan. Love it. Love the way he plays defense. Love the way he facilitates. I really think that this is a trade that both teams won. Both of these teams, they come out in better shape than they went into the move with. So I like this trade. What about you, Samir? You enjoy this trade?
I do. I absolutely do. I think the Clippers get themselves a playmaker that they needed. They need somebody that can get Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in their spots for easier looks. Somebody that can run the pick and roll with Serge Ibaka and Ivica Zubac. They need somebody that
Yeah,
can find Marcus Morris behind the arc or inside the paint for easy looks. They needed somebody that can make the game easier for them. That's exactly what the Clippers got here. And when it comes to the playoff Rondo shows up year in and year out. This is a
that's
different
right.
Rajon
Yeah,
Rondo
Oh
from
yeah.
the Boston Celtics. I mean, obviously Rondo was a better player when he was with the Boston Celtics, but this is a version of Rajon Rondo that can shoot the ball as well, and that's very valuable when it comes to the modern NBA. You need to know how to shoot the ball. So the Clippers, I think, struck gold, giving up Lou Williams, who just didn't really fit this team anymore. I think his days with the Clippers are pretty much numbered. His best days were on the team when they made the playoffs in 2019, gave the Warriors a good run for their money. That was his time with the Clippers. But now this is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's team. And I think Rondo is a better fit for them moving forward. But for the Hawks, I think getting Lou Williams back, this is his second stint with his hometown team. Lou Williams is from Georgia, and
Lemon
we
pepper
know
Lou,
that
baby.
Magic City, he'll be hitting up Magic City, probably more often. He's probably happy, but
definitely.
Oh
I
yeah.
Oh
think
yeah,
Atlanta's just Atlanta's just the city for a guy like Lou Williams. He seems very in tune with pop culture. There's a song named after him by Drake. And I just think that Atlanta kind of gives him that environment where he can just kind of be free flowing off the bench and kind of be himself again and not have to worry about the big city like just being in a big city like
Yeah.
LA and under the media all the time. I think this is a great move for Lou Williams at this point of his career as well.
Yeah, Drake called the song "Lemon Pepper," so just it's great. It's great. I mean, but I'll say this: Adam Amin, a Bulls play-by-play announcer, tweeted at Magic City Wings with just the eye emoji in as a quote tweet to the trade. And Magic City Wings are like with the sunglass emoji, so you already know everyone is in tune with what's going on. So to see a guy like Drake make a song about it, see a broadcast like Adam Amin, who's so in touch with the media, just to see that interaction is great. And then, Erik, I'm going to go to you first. The Bulls did what? Nikola Vucevic?
Oh, my goodness, guys. I mean, this completely hit me out of nowhere. I heard no rumors about Vooch. Of course, rumors surrounding the Bulls and where they were going to go. There was Lonzo Ball talk there for a minute. There was talk of moving Laurie, which I was kind of up in the air on. I'm a Lowry fan, maybe a bit of a homer there, but I still have faith in the guy. I still think that he can shoot, he can score, he can. He's a little slow-footed on defense, but he can get a few rebounds. I always expected a little more from Lowry, but it was time to move on from Wendell Carter. I had seen enough in the 3 years that he was here. There were a few guys in the 2018 draft that I would have preferred the Bulls take. I know Alexander was there. Both Bridges were there. I mean, there was a few guys that I would have rather seen come to Chicago than Wendell Carter. So, and that's not a shot at Wendell. I just never liked him. So I guess it is kind of a shot at Wendell. But
Yeah.
Vooch, I mean, you're bringing in 25, 12, and 4. That's massive. That's just massive for this team. I feel like Zach LaVine is really going to have somebody there for him now. Somebody who I thought exactly. And I really thought that it'd be Kobe White this season at his right or left side. I thought Kobe would really step it up. Maybe he hasn't quite taken that next step, although I do think bringing Kobe off the bench is going to do a few things for us. I personally like Kobe coming off the bench. He's sticking with right around the same averages thus far off the bench as he was starting. So I like the Kobe off the bench move. I love bringing in Vooch, and I'm happy to move on from Wendell Carter, and maybe he gets a fresh start, new team, new coach. Maybe he's finally what a lot of people expected him to be as well. So love this move. Can't tell you how excited I am. We're still 5 games under 500, but we're
Yeah,
battling in the
sure
East.
are.
We're battling. If we can just get to that 8 spot and, get ousted by a 1, I just want to make the playoffs again. It's been a minute. I'm ready to get back to the show, man. I want to see us in some playoff basketball. So,
It'll
but yes, I
happen.
absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that completely. Vooch is an incredible ball player. I think he's just such a nice fit for Chicago. He gives them the guy who can stretch the floor, and also the Bulls are last in post-up scoring because they don't have Zach LaVine's their best post-up player. Zach LaVine is a guard. Zach LaVine is not a tall guard. Zach LaVine is a normal-sized guard who is their best post-up player. So this is huge. They get Porter's contract off the books as well. Yeah, the Bulls are definitely a huge one, and we're going to get to the Rockets in a bit. They've made some interesting moves throughout the last week, but I love Vooch for this team. I think he's perfect. He's going to get other guys involved. And as a fantasy owner of Kobe White, I'm a little disappointed, but I'm happy that he's doing okay off the bench. And as a Cavs fan, last night was a joy. I'm not here to rub anything in. That's just one game. I will say the Cavs beating the Bulls scared them into trading for Vucevic so that they can beat them in the play-in. But yes, the full trade, and we'll go to Samir for his thoughts. Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu going to Chicago. This is Al-Farouq's second year of a 3-year deal with the Magic. Wendell Carter Jr., Otto Porter Jr. in the first-round picks of 2021 and 2023. Shout out Steppy and Rule for letting them keep their 2022 pick, are going back to Orlando. Samir, what are your thoughts on this trade?
I think it's a great trade, honestly, for Chicago all around. When I first saw it, I'm like, that's it? That's all Chicago's given up for Nikola Vucevic, all-star, still in the prime of his career? That's all they're giving up for a guy that can give you 20-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, and like 4 to 5 assists per game. Somebody that can do it all. He's not necessarily Nikola Jokic, but he's a poor man's Nikola Jokic. And if you can get that on your team for the foreseeable future and team that up with Zach LaVine and all the other pieces that the Chicago Bulls have going for them, then you do it 10 times out of 10. Forget the first-round picks. First-round picks are a crapshoot when you look at the NBA. You saw teams like the Brooklyn Nets recover and build a championship caliber team without their first-round picks, despite losing all of them in that Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce trade. So when you have a chance to add a player of this caliber, you forget about the picks and you go all in. And I'm happy that Chicago did just that, because you got to bring exciting basketball back to a city as big as Chicago. And the way to do that is to bring in all-star caliber players. Chicago is a big market. This is not a team like Detroit or, even though Milwaukee is good, Milwaukee's only good because they got lucky by drafting Giannis Antetokounmpo at the 15th overall pick. Otherwise, Milwaukee would still very much be in purgatory. So when you look at the Chicago Bulls, forget about building through the draft all the time. You have Zach LaVine, who's only 25, 26 years old. He was born in 95. That's all I know, So that adds up to 25 and 26. So when you have Zach LaVine, one of the game's youngest guards, one of the best young guards in the league, rather, you pair that with guys like Nikola Vucevic. You don't build through the draft and try to hope that you strike gold. You take what's there now and you build towards the future. Now that you have Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic in the fold, that's going to attract free agents in the coming years to want to come play in Chicago. Obviously, Chicago is big market. Michael Jordan played there. That's going to attract people as is. But now that you're bringing in guys that can help you win now, they're set up very well for the future. So overall, this was a steal by Chicago as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and here's the one thing, and then we'll move on to the next trade. It's that when you get a chance to get that legendary Bulls intro as a starter, you hear Sirius by Alan Parsons Project. I couldn't imagine how excited they must get, the nerves you feel walking between the players as one of the 5. I know Tim Sinclair's in his first year as a PA announcer. He's already nailed the Vucevic pronunciation as per his last tweet, but it's really cool. So I think that and the fact that they have a competent coach now, they've got the pieces coming together. They look good. And another team that's starting to look pretty good, the Portland Trailblazers, guys, bringing in Norman Powell, one of the hottest names on the market. Unfortunately, it takes Gary Trent Jr. to get the deal done. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA last 2 years, or bubble plus this year, and Rodney Hood as well, going to Toronto, aka Tampa Bay. They're not going to be switching countries just yet. They don't have to dig out the passports right now, but this is big for Portland because Norman Powell's at 6'5", 6'6", whereas Gary Trent was only 6'2". You have a guy that can close games as a scorer next to an elite backcourt, I think this makes them dangerous come playoff time. And that's what the move is going to really come down to.
Absolutely. And I think I would fear losing Gary Trent Jr. a little more if you weren't bringing in a guy who's shooting almost 50% from three this season, and, putting up 23, 24 points a game. So I love this move for the Blazers. And I'm also a Gary Trent Jr. fan, though. I loved what he did in the bubble last year. He made me a fan, really fun player to watch. But I'm excited to see what Powell can do next to Dame and CJ McCollum. And also Nurkic didn't we just talk about that? Yeah, Nurkic is
back tomorrow, baby. Yes, sir.
Tomorrow,
finally.
So the keep an eye on the Blazers then in the West over the next few weeks. I'm excited to see how the team chemistry changes with Nurkic coming back and with Powell in the fold now. So look out West, because Dame Dalla does not mess around, and now he has even more weapons at his side. So you gotta look at that.
Samir, thoughts on this trade?
Pretty much right in agreement with you right there, Eric. You're bringing in a guy that shoots nearly 50% from the field and about 45% from three. So you're bringing in a guy that can get his offense going. He's averaging 20 points a game nearly. So, it's not like he's averaging just 10 points per game on those shooting splits. He's averaging nearly 20. And that's not a number to scoff at whatsoever. And where he's getting his offense the most is off of catch and shoot threes. And I think that's very important when you look at the specifics of this trade, because Damian Lillard, we all know he loves to drive the ball. We all know that he loves to have the ball in his hands, and he's going to attract double teams. He's going to attract the attention of multiple defenses when he's out there. That's just the way it goes. Same with CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum commands the mid-range. So as defenses collapse on both of them, it frees up Norman Powell to get open behind the arc. I feel like he favors the left corner or right corners a lot. He favors the corners. So, when you find him there, he's going to get open a lot, and he's reliable, 45% of the time when he shoots, he's going to make it, when he gets behind the arc. So I'll take that trade-off each and every time. And it seems like Norman Powell is also a guy that's very comfortable with getting his offense off the ball. He doesn't need to have the ball in his hands for multiple.
That's huge in this NBA. Yep.
Exactly. He doesn't need to have the ball in his hands to ISO guys or, create his offense off the pick and roll. He doesn't need that. He needs to get off the ball, get open, get his pass and shoot, and he's happy with that. And he's going to be effective, especially when he's playing, with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So I think this is a great move for Portland, especially when they're looking to win now. They're not looking to win 5-10 years from now when Gary Trent, hits his peak. They're looking to win now when Norman Powell is like 27, 28 years old, hitting the prime of his career, and can fit with the pieces that they have right now. So this was a great trade by Portland, but also for Toronto. They got another young guard that can fill in. They can potentially build around for the future, whether it be a starting guard or six-man. Gary Trent has the capability of being a starting guard or a capable six-man in this league. And, as Toronto looks to rebuild for the future, I think Kyle Lowry is going to end up being on the move this offseason. So that'll free up Gary Trent even more for opportunities to kind of take the throne. And we see what Toronto can do with their guards. So I think this was a win-win trade for both sides. It's going to benefit them both for now and in the future.
Yeah, short guards in Toronto work. Fred VanVleet took him a couple years to crack the starting lineup, but he went from being the sixth man in the finals to a starter. So we'll probably get a look at a Raptors team that I think will be good enough to get to the play-in once they're healthy enough, and then probably a 7 or 8 seed when all is said and done. They'll have 2 short guards starting with Fred and Kyle. They'll have a sixth man that can play the 2 and a little 3. And I think this allows them to get a normal starting lineup with Pascal going back to the 4. Because they couldn't bring Norm off the bench. They had to kind of move Anunoby to the 4 to compensate for that, and then Siakam to the 5. So this allows them. It'll give Boucher a bigger lift. It'll give Baines more minutes. And good for Toronto for getting a win in the send-off game for Powell and not Lowry. But the next trade is Aaron Gordon to Denver. This is an interesting one. The Nuggets actually have a log jam now at power forward. Not that it's going to be a log jam at the end of the day, but you got JaMychal Green, you got Paul Millsap, and you got Aaron Gordon now. You get Aaron Gordon in the full trade. Aaron Gordon going to Denver. R.J. Hampton, Gary Harris. I think Gary Clark was in this trade too. I assume he'll be waived. They're not going to keep him just to have him. They have enough backups like Zeke Najee. Gordon for R.J. Hampton, Gary Harris, and a first-round pick. You get Gary Harris' salary off the books. He had his moments in the bubble, but his lack of scoring is a killer. R.J. Hampton's a promising combo guard that is going to be nice in Orlando. Next year, I could possibly envision him as a starter, depending on what they do in the draft, next to Markelle Fultz. And, Gary Harris just gives them a good defender. I guess Terrence Ross is staying as the backup, so I guess Gary will start when he's healthy. But overall, guys, I think this gives Denver what they're missing. When they lost Jeremy Grant, they didn't have that creator at the 4, whether it's occasionally get your own shot or the spot up 3 or the tight D. Aaron Gordon's never played in a high-pressure situation. He's 2-8 in his playoff career. But I think that coming here, he gets a good opportunity. And, again, there are other players are involved. But this trade, Samir, it's all about Aaron Gordon.
Absolutely. I think this was the right move for Denver to make here. I think, they were missing somebody like Jeremy Grant this season. That's why the Nuggets haven't been able to replicate their last season's success. We saw Jeremy Grant leave, and he's killing it in Detroit, averaging over 20 points a game, doing his thing. So that was a great move for the Pistons to bring him in, especially for Jeremy Grant seeking a bigger role. But now what the Nuggets get to do here is they get to bring in a jack of all trades at the forward position. He can play the power forward, the small forward. He can shoot the 3. He can pass the ball around. He can move the ball around, get you rebounds. He can get you all types of different production out there on the court. And defensively, he's proven capable of sticking on guys, and holding it down on the defensive side of the ball, staying in front on defense of the opposing offensive player, bodying them up, sticking onto them on the wings. He's proven capable of all that, and that's going to go a long way. Sliding next to Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic, it's one of the worst defenders in the league at the center position. If you look at the numbers, he's just not getting it done on defense in Denver. So I think sliding in Aaron Gordon that can kind of play on the weak side and help Jokic out in certain instances is going to go a long way. But I think where Aaron Gordon's going to thrive the most is kind of be, a playmaker. I think he's going to get Jamal Murray involved more often. He's going to kick it out to Jamal Murray in the corners. Will Barton's still in the floor. He's going to kick it out to him. I think Nikola Jokic obviously is going to do damage inside the paint. Aaron Gordon could easily find him inside. I think all around, his playmaking and ability to run the pick and roll is going to go a long way for this Denver offense, and it's an upgrade. I think the Nuggets need to bring in an upgrade over Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap is on the downside of his career. He can get away with playing him 10 to 15 minutes a night. JaMychal Green, it's kind of more just a floor spacer, maybe somebody that can get a little physical on defense, but he doesn't really offer much more outside of that. So when you bring in Aaron Gordon and his multifaceted skill set, it'll bring the Nuggets right back into the picture in terms of being one of the teams that could potentially come out of the Western Conference. I think Utah has largely cooled off from their hot stretch. They did blow out Brooklyn last night, but Brooklyn was missing all 3 of their superstars. So
take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, Harden didn't play last night.
I didn't watch. Wow,
take that with a grain of salt. I think Utah's very beatable. They are vulnerable. Denver did beat them last year in the first round. Now when you add in Aaron Gordon to already what they got, this is a move that is just going to make them a lot more dangerous. So this was a great move by Denver, and I think this was very much a case of highway robbery as well.
I'm with that. Erik?
I found this very, very interesting. Very interesting, especially on the Nuggets end of this deal. You kind of move on from Gary Harris, who, as you said, he had some great moments in the bubble last year. I think it was 2017, 2018. He had a pretty good season, but terribly inconsistent as far as scoring. Just terribly inconsistent. Now, when you bring in a guy like Aaron Gordon, you're not bringing in 30 points a game, but you know what you're getting. You're getting 15 and 7, and that is what he's going to bring you. That's what he's brought you his whole career. You're getting that consistency. getting a little bit on the inside. You're getting a bigger guy who can distribute the ball a little bit. Just like Samir said, he can get Jamal Murray a little bit more involved. He can help out Nico on the defensive end where he struggles mightily. So, and as far as the other end of the trade goes, I like RJ Hampton. I'll say that. I like RJ Hampton. I've never been huge on Gary Harris. Like I said, just too inconsistent. But I have hopes for RJ Hampton yet. I'd like to see what Hampton can do with maybe some more minutes down in Orlando. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited for RJ. I'm surprised that Marcus Howard outlasted him in Denver, but this means that should an injury arise, Marcus Howard might be next on the list. Although they have a couple of other small guards like Facu Campazzo, who's very fun to watch. But
I cannot say that name to save my life. I'm not even going to try.
Here we go. Facundo Campazzo. Just like that.
Nope, not trying it.
Samir's got it. It's all right. Eric, it's all good. We'll get there. We're gonna get you a Campazzo jersey to celebrate you learning how to pronounce his name, and I'll send it to him so he can sign it. And he can sign it with the pronunciation instead of the actual spelling. So then, boom, he'll sign it with his phonetic signature. How's that?
Sound it out, guys. Come on.
So, Facundo Campazzo. But as we continue, quick one to mention. Not a huge deal, but George Hill is off to Philly. He missed the free throw in Cleveland. He's been to the final. He was close to the finals with the Spurs. He got there with the Cavs. He was on the Bucks, who failed to get there. Now he's on another team trying to get back to the finals in Philly. 3-team trade. Austin Rivers going to OKC along with Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson to the Knicks. And my main takeaways here: OKC gets a nice something of a veteran with Austin Rivers, who's a little younger than George Hill. A little upset by Philly trading Tony Bradley, who's been playing well as a starter, so they have a little less Embiid insurance. It bumps up Poirier to the third-string center. And then, George Hill is solid. I just think that they lacked a true guard when Simmons was out. So that's that. As we circle back, Celtics finally making a splash. No more Danny do this, Danny do that. Danny did something. He brought in Evan Fournier at the cost of just a couple of picks. I think that with all they cleared up some roster spots with moving Teague and Javonte Green. Fournier's 6'6". He's a decent defender, a very good shooter. I think that this allows you to possibly move Smart back into a bench role where he can still play 30 minutes, kind of like, and maybe they want Fournier to be their Hayward. I think that they needed that, a wing that can score, that can pass, and that's just effective because it was a little difficult at times when Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Walker are all in, and there's just such a lack of size. And then Tice was only 6'9". Robert Williams can't play 48 minutes, but I like this. Eric, this frees up a lot of things for the Celtics, and I think it's a great addition.
It really is. You could really tell in Boston this season the loss of Gordon Hayward, even though I know over the couple of years he was there, he was injured the entire season, and so he didn't get a ton of time to really prove himself in Boston, yet you could see the difference in the team this season without him. I mean, there's a hole there, and a hole that Kemba Walker, I think, was supposed to, try to fill that scoring gap, and Kemba's just not quite getting it done. So you bring in a guy like Fournier, you bring in a guy that can shoot, 40% from the three-point range. He can easily put up 20, 25 a night. This, in my opinion, is, I think, the most helpful move to any one team as far as playoff implications go. Because Vooch coming to Chicago, while that's huge, Chicago probably still doesn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs this season. Adding a guy like Fournier to the Boston lineup can propel them to possibly get out of the first round of the playoffs. That really solidifies the lineup, in my opinion. So love this move for Boston, definitely.
Samir, what are your thoughts on Evan Fournier going to Boston?
Well, first of all, don't Google his name.
And no, don't Google image search. You can Google it. Don't image search. Just don't ask. Guys, don't ask. Don't ask. I did it. I took the bait. Don't do it. Samir, you're right.
Well, now I'm definitely going to do it.
No, just don't. Evan Fournier told us not to. When you have 300,000 followers, do something, people are going to do it. Depending on what it is. in this case, it's more of a joke. It's not something serious. But just don't, Eric, for your own sanity, as we'll let Samir talk about Evan Fournier to Boston. Just don't. Just don't do it. Nike, we're running a reverse Nike ad. Just don't do it.
I think this is a good move for Boston, though. They're getting him cheap. Fournier can shoot the lights out any given night. He's averaging nearly 20 points a night, but you slide him in next to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Both guys love to drive the ball, and, they're going to attract a lot of defensive attention in the paint. They're going to attract double teams. Guys are going to try to shut both of them down, so then they can kick it out to Fournier beyond the arc. And what can Fournier do? He can shoot, but if a defender closes out on Fournier real fast, Fournier can just take the guy off the dribble and take him to the rim. So Fournier is, high-level scorer. He can do it all, shoot, drive to the rim, and run the pick and roll. He can do all that. He's very capable of doing all that. And I think the Celtics are getting him, as potentially the third offensive option, and you got Kemba Walker there and Marcus Smart who can get some offense going, especially Kemba Walker. We've seen what he can do in his career. I think this is a great move for the Celtics all around. Is this going to get them to the finals? No, but it's going to solidify their playoff positioning a little bit. I think they can fend off the likes of the Knicks, and other teams that they're competing for playoff seeding. I think that's good enough to at least fend them off from the Knicks. Now, as for the Heat, that'll be more of a battle. The Heat added some reinforcements, and in the name of Victor Oladipo particularly, and I think that'll be a battle that'll kind of come down to the wire. But with Boston here, they added a piece that can finally help them get over the hump in certain situations and potentially get them to the Eastern Conference Finals potentially against the Brooklyn Nets, assuming they don't face off against the Brooklyn Nets in the second round of the playoffs or even the first round. But I think they're better than the 7th or 8th seed. So that'll at least get them a matchup with the Brooklyn Nets, I'd say, in the Eastern Conference. But it's just not going to be enough for them to overtake Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. No one can in the eyes of Samir Kumar, you can only overtake Brooklyn if you have this growth serum to make all your players 10 feet tall. That's the only way. But then in all honesty, I do think that the only teams that have a chance are Milwaukee and Philly, and they're going to end up one of them will knock the other one out before they even get to the conference final. So we're going to talk about that another day. But the Nets are going to be very excited. The Nets are a very exciting team. They've got 3 superstars. They've only, I think, played 2 games. All 3 of them are 3. But when they all come together, I talked about quaking in my boots with Lou Williams, Bogdan, and Gallo, about the beard, the KD, and the Kai. And then, then I'm not only quaking, the whole ground is quaking, not just me. But we'll get to that on another show. We got one more trade to talk about. But real quick, guys, Kyle Lowry staying put. It looks like Andre Drummond and LaMarcus Aldridge are going to hit the buyout market. Will the Raptors regret not trading Lowry now, or do you think what they wanted, give him, maybe he wanted to stay for one more run, and then he'll go their separate ways this offseason?
I think Lowry thinks that he wants to stay for another run. I just don't know that that Toronto has it in them this year. I think that Toronto will regret not moving Kyle sooner rather than later. I mean, you've got to get something in return for a guy like that who is not going to be here much longer, especially if you don't have a shot at the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals. I don't know why you don't just go ahead and move him. So, that was the thing with, a team like Orlando today with all the moves that they made. They know that they're not going anywhere deep or, sniffing the playoffs. And they stocked up. They stocked up on young guys, draft picks, and the Raptors are stuck in the place where the Bulls were for a long time, and that is middling. And in the NBA, that is the worst place you can be. So I do think the Raptors will regret not moving Kyle Lowry, unfortunately.
Samir?
I actually disagree with that because Kyle Lowry is revered around the Toronto Raptors organization. He's arguably considered by the fans. Like, a lot of fans consider him the best Toronto Raptor of all time. And that's no small task when you consider they've had Vince Carter in their franchise history. Vince Carter was one of the most popular Raptors and basketball players of his time, and he put Toronto on the map. So when Kyle Lowry overtakes a legend such as Vince Carter, or even is considered better, I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he was only there for a year. Yeah, take that graphic down. Lowry's not the Raptors GOAT. Thank you very much. It's Vince Carter. I'm just saying that many Raptor fans consider him the GOAT in franchise history. So,
championship.
so,
Excuse me.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
he
Sorry
won a
about that. My
championship, so that's
coughing
going to speed up the
championships out of my
argument. But
hands.
nope. You'll never get out of me that Kyle Lowry is the best Raptor of all time. It's Vince Carter, but as I digress into that, that graphic is putting words into my mouth. All love. There we go. That's a graphic that I can get behind. There we go. That's a graphic I can get behind, but I'm sorry. I digress a little too much there.
Fair.
I mean, with Kawhi, he was there for 1 year. Yeah, he won a championship with them. He brought them their first ever championship. He was the Finals MVP, but he spent 1 year there. It's hard for me to consider him the best Raptor of all time. Now, is he top 5? Yes, absolutely. But aside from all that, Lowry is loved in Toronto. He's household name, and he helped them bring a championship, which many teams can never say that one of their franchise guys has ever been able to do. So the least the Raptors can do is hold on to Lowry for now, see if they have one more run in them, and then kind of reevaluate their options in the offseason. Work with Lowry to put him in a situation where he wants to go to. Lowry was heavily linked to the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers weren't willing to move the assets needed to get the deal done. Lowry's from Philadelphia, so maybe that's where he wanted to end up. So maybe, with Philadelphia being out of the picture, Lowry's like, I'm not really too keen on going to Miami or Los Angeles. I want to stay in Toronto for the rest of the season, see what I can do to, help turn the situation around. And if the offseason comes around, things don't look well in Toronto, then Lowry may reapproach management and be like, I think it's time for a move. And they work out things amicably, because that's what good organizations do. And they put Kyle Lowry in a situation where he's more comfortable. So the Raptors knew what they wanted in a Kyle Lowry trade. Clearly, they wanted Tyler Hero from Miami, or they wanted Talen Horton-Tucker from Los Angeles, from the Lakers. So, given the fact that those two teams weren't willing to give up those two young stars in the league, Toronto just kind of pivoted and say, nah, we're not going to give you Kyle Lowry then if you're not willing to give us one of those two guys.
Stars? Young stars? Tyler Hero shooting is worse in the league in 3-point percentage. This is potential. I agree.
Yeah,
but he's not a young star. He's a young. What is it before it's a star?
Potential young.
So he's in a sophomore slump. I have high hopes for Tyler.
Worst 3-point shooter in the league. It has to be said. Is
he really?
Yeah,
wow.
worst percentage. I'm just saying. Hey, I like Tyler Hero. I have a cereal. I spent $25 on the cereal. I wrote 2 articles about his cereal. So
we can agree that it's potential young star.
Yes.
They have
just the word potential should be in caps, not in parentheses.
Yes. Potential or potential big parts of their future.
Yes.
We can say potential because we don't know what's going to happen yet, but they're young, and they're young enough where you give them a chance and you don't just trade them, for a 34-year-old point guard that's not necessarily going to bring you a championship. Kyle Lowry will be more ready-made in a situation to bring you a championship. In a situation like Philadelphia that can potentially reach the NBA Finals. So, having said that, I think the Raptors did the right thing in holding on to, their best, their most popular player in franchise history at this moment.
Siakam's the best right now.
And
Siakam.
I think they made the right move to hold on to him for now.
Yeah, and if your name is Lowry, whether it's Lowry Marketing or Kyle Lowry, you did not change teams today. And for both, I'm actually kind of happy. I'm not going to get into it much. I love Kyle Lowry. I have for a long time. He really worked his way up in Toronto. I think when he got to Toronto, I think he was still competing with Jose Calderon for some minutes that first year because Calderon had been there for so long. But, he got his opportunity in Memphis for a little bit for a few years. Then he had to compete with Goran Dragic in Houston. Then they made the trade, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. He's 6 feet. He's considered overrated, which is nuts because people watch box scores, not games. That half-court shot he made against Miami, he finished the game with 3 made field goals. One of the 3 was a game-tying half-court shot, down 3 at the buzzer in the freaking playoff. So I digress. That's it on Kyle Lowry. We got one last trail. We'll give a quick take, guys, and get out. We can all enjoy some nice sunlight on this 72-degree day where Samir and I are. Eric, what's the weather in Illinois before we move on?
It's not bad here. It's mid 60s here today, but it just started raining, so no glorious sunlight. But hey, I don't mind the rain as long as it's warm. I'm good to go, man.
All right, well, good. I'm sorry, no outdoor hoops for Erik Neff today, but we got one more trade to talk about, and then we will say goodbye, folks. It is a guy that's been wanting this for a long time. Victor Oladipo is pining to other teams openly. Trade for me, trade for me, trade for me. All bubble, all regular season, pre-COVID, everything. And now he's finally in a Heat uniform. He can finally look at palm trees out his window that aren't just shipped as fathead palm heads. Fathead palm trees. You know, the old fatheads you hang on the wall, life-size cutouts of players. The real palm trees. The trade is Oladipo for not even a good haul for Houston, a pick swap, Kelly Armbreaker Olynyk, and Avery Bradley. All I'll say is this. The Heat won this trade. Olynyk had some good moments, but this clears the way for Precious Achiuwa to get the backup minutes, and Avery Bradley wasn't a big part of the rotation anyway. So now they brought in Ariza, they brought in Oladipo, they brought in Bielitsa. They'll be just fine. And I give the Heat a much better grade. I don't know what on earth the Rockets did. They did not get much for P.J. Tucker, really. They got DJ Augustine and DJ Wilson. You know, they didn't get a ton for Oladipo. Wall is staying. I'm glad they didn't get anything for Cousins. LOL at the Rockets. Poor Steven Silas. Sending hugs to Steven Silas because he's had a rough first year. But Samir and Eric, take us home on your quick thoughts on Vic going to Miami. I don't think this gets them even to the conference finals. I just think this solidifies them for next year is what this is about.
All right. I've got some issues with this trade. For one thing, Zach, you just pointed out, I don't know what Houston's doing right now, to be honest. The haul, I mean, you would expect something, and there was just nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I expected a much better haul than that. But at the same time, Victor Oladipo, talking about him for a second. Love Oladipo, was a huge fan as he came out of Indiana, out of college. I'm a huge Big Ten fan, so I loved watching him play college ball. He has been so wildly inconsistent and hurt the last several years. I don't understand how he has the power to kind of make these demands he's been making. He kind of complained his way out of a few places, and now he's, requested a trade in Houston. Now he's gone. I mean, what's he putting up this year? Like 12 points a game when he plays or something? I mean,
he's 17. No, he's averaging about 20, but it's the effectiveness is totally gone. It's a shot selection. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just he's went downhill so hard since leaving Indiana, and I had such high hopes for Oladipo. Now, that being said, he has the talent to really force some things in Miami. Now that he's got the team around him, I read earlier that he really wanted to play with Jimmy Butler. He loves Jimmy Butler's drive, loves the way he plays. Now, if a little bit of Jimmy Butler rubs off on Victor Oladipo and he really starts locking down again, maybe stays healthy for a couple seasons, gets that consistency back, this will be a fantastic trade for Miami. I mean, it's like you just said, it's just for Houston, it's nothing. And Miami, what are you going to do? Say no to that? I mean, you really can't. Avery Bradley, he hasn't done much since Boston. So all about it. If I'm a Miami fan, I'm pretty happy with this because you get a shot on Oladipo. If he's the Oladipo of old, what a shot you just got. And if not, you're not losing much. So good trade for Miami. Houston, dumbfounded Houston. Don't know what you're doing.
Houston, we have another problem. Over. Made another bad trade. Over.
Absolutely.
Take us home, Samir. Victor Oladipo, thoughts?
Well, First of all, I think Victor Oladipo has every right to, command a situation and go to a situation and kind of command his destiny, for his career because he only has one career. And if he didn't feel like he was getting what he wanted out of Indiana, he has every right to kind of let management know and say that, look, I want to move on. I want to go to Miami. I want to go to New York. I want to go to one of these spots. And, then they work together and find a situation that works out for both sides. Victor Oladipo goes on to a situation where he feels like he'll be best suited, and Indiana will get assets out of Victor Oladipo that they can help rebuild. Fortunately for Indiana, they're able to get Karis LeVert out of Victor Oladipo, and Karis LeVert's one of the game's brightest young guys. Is he a star? He's got to stay healthy. He's got the potential
I
to
love
be a
me some
star.
Karras,
But
though. Yeah,
I
I love
love
Potential,
me some
Karis.
great word.
Karras, man. He does
I
have the
love Karis.
potential. I love that dude.
Game winner the
I
other
do
night.
as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, saw that.
I
That was
think
sweet.
he is a star. If you were to tell me, just health needs to be in his way, and I can't really blame him for some of the things that's come his way. I applaud him for how he battled that cancer scare that he got back in January. The trade from Brooklyn might have actually saved his life. If he wasn't traded from Brooklyn, he might have not gotten a physical that would have detected it, and it could have gotten worse. But I'm thankful for Karis LeVert that he was able to be aware of what was going on in his body, and he was able to get the proper treatment and recover in time to return this season. And I'm rooting for Karis LeVert all the way. I really want him to live up to his potential. So I'll give Karis LeVert a lot of credit there. As for Victor Oladipo, I think Miami's adding a guy that can take a lot of scoring pressure off of Jimmy Butler. He can set guys up. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Goran Dragic. He can set all those guys up for nice looks behind the arc or set up Bam Adebayo inside for a nice dunk. Victor Oladipo kind of comes in, takes a lot of pressure off of Jimmy Butler on the offensive end, and I think that's exactly what Miami is seeking from him, and they didn't give up anything for him. I don't care what you say; they gave up nothing. They gave
Not at
up
all.
scraps.
Yeah.
Scraps.
They gave
Yep.
up muffin
Absolute
crumbs.
scraps.
Yeah,
for
they did table
Victor
scraps, man.
Oladipo. Kelly Olynyk, are you kidding me?
He's
Man,
all
he's
right.
most
He's not-
famous
he's
for
not
hurting
decent.
Kevin Love.
Uh-huh.
Give me a break. Avery Bradley, I mean, he's decent, but he's not the same player. He's had a good stretch in his career, but he's washed up, So get those two guys out of there and a pick swap. I mean, who gives a damn,
Yeah.
about a pick swap? If you know how to draft, if you know how to evaluate talent, that's all. That's all you need to worry about when you execute a game plan in the draft. So,
Yep.
this was a huge win for Miami, and I'm gonna rip the Rockets ownership one more time here. I think Tillman Fertitta clearly has no idea what he's doing with Houston. That James Harden trade to the Nets, that trade looks worse and worse by the day. James Harden is looking like an MVP candidate, arguably the best player in basketball right now, and you give him up for future picks that might not be top 10 in the future. I mean, 2025, 2026, 2027, that's a long ways away. You're really going to give up James Harden now for a potential trade-off in the future when the Brooklyn Nets have already established themselves as a powerhouse franchise, and in 2025, 26, 27, they could rebuild their team if they lose out on Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden at that point. They have proven they can rebuild and
Yep.
build a team again. That just makes no sense to me. And then not only that, you letting Jarrett Allen go to Cleveland and Karis LeVert going to Indiana. Those are two guys that could have helped make this rebuild much smoother for you guys. But instead, you make a boneheaded move and trade for a guy that didn't want to be there in the first place, and then you trade him for pennies on the dollar. You could have had Karis LeVert instead of Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and a pick swap. And you could have had Jarrett Allen. You could have had them both, instead of pennies on the dollar. And
Small
these
ball,
scraps and
baby.
these pick
Small
swap.
ball.
And
Yeah.
even if you don't
Yeah,
plan on keeping Karis LeVert and Jarrett Allen for the long-term future, you showcase them. You give them an opportunity to go off. And, when they do go off, if you decide that they're not fit for your team, you call up other teams and you trade LeVert or Allen to them and extract the maximum value you could possibly get for those two guys and further your rebuild through that. The picks, fine. If that's what you want to get for James Harden, well, you got to take on young talented guys too. And those two guys would have came in and given you an easy avenue to rebuild this team for the now and for the future. So if I'm a Houston fan, I'm looking at Tillman Fertitta as a guy that's clueless, has no idea what he's doing, and this is a team that's going to be in disarray for the next decade.
Yep, well said, Samir. Well said, Eric. As that is going to take us to the end of our trade deadline show. It has been a blast talking NBA trade with Erik Neff and Samir Kumar. There was plenty to discuss. There was a lot that happened today. And just a quick update on an earlier trade, I had reported that J.J. Redick and Nicolo Melli had moved on and been traded from the Pelicans to the Mavs. Going back to New Orleans, James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, and a second-round pick. That's going to do it for today's NBA Free Agent Frenzy. For our producer, Dan Bradley, my fellow panelists, Erik Neff and Samir Kumar, I'm Zach Weiss. If you couldn't catch us live, you can catch the Sports 2.0 show on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. We are there, excited for you to listen. We will see you next Wednesday for our regularly scheduled programming. Looking forward to being back. Hope you all have a great day and enjoy some more NBA action. Now that all these new guys have changed teams, go to NBAstore.com and spend all your hard-earned money on these players' new teams. I'll be doing the same thing. Not actually. I'm not spending any money on new jerseys. I have about 100 already. Thank you.